Welcome everyone to First Post America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from our studios here in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the U.S. and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest global headlines. Taiwan's intelligence chief says Chinese military aircraft are now simulating attacks on foreign warships moving through sensitive waters between Beijing and Taipei. India revokes an order requiring smartphones sold in the country to come with a pre-installed cybersecurity app after privacy concerns fueled debate in Parliament. Airbus lowers its delivery target for the year due to quality issues on its flagship model. This comes just days after a warning that hundreds of aircraft of that same model may require inspections concerning metal plate issues. Thailand relaxes decades-old alcohol sales restrictions, allowing consumers to buy wine, beer, and spirits during previously prohibited afternoon hours as part of a 6-month trial. And Malaysian authorities say the search for the wreckage of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 will resume on December 30th, more than a decade after the plane carrying 239 people mysteriously vanished. We begin with a high-stakes diplomatic gamble that stretched 5 hours inside the Kremlin, but still failed to unlock a path to peace. The war in Ukraine, now the deadliest conflict Europe has seen in generations, remains stuck on the same hard question that has haunted every negotiation so far: territory. On Tuesday, President Trump's senior envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner sat down with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Their mission was clear: somehow move Putin to a position of agreement on a revised peace plan. Now, the meeting had structure and substance, but did it have Putin's sign-off?
The conversation was very useful, constructive, and very meaningful. It lasted not for 5 minutes, but for 5 hours.
President Putin's foreign policy advisor, Yuri Ushakov, revealed that the original American proposal had 4 major components, all of which were examined during the talks. Some points, he said, drew agreement, while others triggered what he described as a critical, even negative response from President Putin.
Naturally, we discussed with U.S. colleagues the content of those drafts, those documents which the Americans submitted to Moscow some time ago. We went through these documents. We did not discuss any specific formulas, any specific American proposals. We discussed the essence of what was there in those American documents. We could agree with certain things, and the President Putin confirmed this to his interlocutors. We criticized some things, and the President did not hide our critical, even negative attitude to a number of proposals.
And on the centerpiece issue of territorial control, Ushakov said no compromise has been made yet. Russia continues to insist that the entire Donbas region must come under its control, either through negotiation or force. Ukraine, however, firmly rejects this, saying that the U.S. delegation at Ushakov laid out new ideas, but the Kremlin held its ground. Ushakov stressed that all the details of the meeting will remain confidential.
We agreed with our U.S. colleagues that we would not disclose the substance of the negotiations that took place. This is quite logical, as the negotiations were absolutely confidential and closed to the public. As I know, our U.S. colleagues went to the U.S. Embassy, where they will report to Washington. Then they will go to Washington and report in person to President Trump on what they discussed with President Putin in the Kremlin.
A day later, the Kremlin said that Russia is ready to hold as many talks with America as possible. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio hit a more optimistic note, saying that the talks had made some progress. Meanwhile, President Trump himself, speaking at a cabinet meeting, called the war a mess that defies easy solutions.
Settled 8 wars this would be the 9th, and our people are over in Russia right now to see if we can get it settled. Not an easy situation, let me tell you. What a mess. It's a war that never would have happened if I were president. Not even a chance. And it didn't happen for 4 years.
Now, just hours before the meeting, Putin delivered a stark warning to NATO capitals, accusing European nations of blocking peace efforts, and said certain European demands were unacceptable to Russia. He then added that Russia is ready for war with NATO countries if Europe wants to start it. Putin didn't specify which demands he was referring to, however.
We are not planning to fight Europe. I have said this 100 times. But if Europe suddenly decides to wage war against us and starts it, we are ready right now. There can be no doubt about that. The question is, if Europe starts a war with us, I believe that very quickly. This is not Ukraine. With Ukraine, we act in a surgical, careful way. You understand, right? It is not war in the full modern sense of the word. If Europe chooses to start a war, the situation can very quickly reach a point where there will be no one left for us to negotiate with.
Now, in recent weeks, several European governments have pushed back and hard against the original U.S. plan, arguing it gave too many concessions to Russia. French President Emmanuel Macron reached China today, seeking to put pressure on President Xi Jinping to help secure a ceasefire in Ukraine. Also today, the European Union even agreed to ban imports of Russian gas by 2027, a decision that the Kremlin has strongly condemned. NATO countries have also pledged to buy hundreds of millions more in weapons for Ukraine amid Kyiv's intense lobbying for those military machinations. President Zelensky has also reiterated that peace negotiations cannot take place without Europe.
The territorial issue is the most difficult. The issues of money and reconstruction, in my view, and I'm speaking honestly and we have discussed this, are of course hard to finalize without the presence of our European partners, because the money is in Europe. To me, this does not seem entirely fair. And the issue of security guarantees is also crucial. We need concrete commitments from the United States and concrete commitments from Europe.
Now, Zelensky also stated that Ukrainian negotiators will hold talks with EU leaders in Brussels before preparing for a meeting with President Trump's envoy.
Spoke with Steve yesterday and with him and with all his team, and we spoke. I think I already answered on your question that we are waiting for the results in America-Russia negotiations, today's results, and I will react according to the results.
Now, this position leaves negotiators trapped between two irreconcilable positions. So after 5 hours in the Kremlin and a week of back and forth, one reality remains. Ending this war will require a breakthrough neither side is ready to make, at least not yet. And now, from war in Europe to conflict in Latin America, President Trump has issued one of his starkest warnings yet on drug trafficking, declaring that any country sending illegal drugs into the United States could be attacked. The comments came after he raised concerns about cocaine production in Colombia and drug routes that flow through the Caribbean and the Pacific. Meanwhile, Washington has intensified its crackdown on suspected drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific.
Through a certain country or any country, or if we think they're building mills for whether it's fentanyl or cocaine. I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. They have cocaine manufacturing plants, okay? And then they sell us their cocaine. We appreciate that very much. But yeah, anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
Now, in recent months, U.S. forces have conducted targeted military strikes, with the White House confirming that dozens of suspected traffickers have in fact been killed. And at the same time, the U.S. military deployments in the Caribbean have increased, raising tensions with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The Trump administration alleges that Maduro plays a central role in enabling drug pipelines that send narcotics northward, allegations the president of Venezuela denies. Now, all of this comes amid the backdrop of President Trump's recent pardoning of former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who himself was convicted in a U.S. courtroom and sentenced to 45 years in prison for his role in trafficking in hundreds of tons of cocaine to the United States. Now, make that make sense. But on Tuesday, President Trump went beyond Venezuela, saying that the U.S. could take action against any country it believes is producing or shipping narcotics into American territory. And he singled out one country directly, Colombia. The comments detonated instantly across Latin America, and Colombian President Gustavo Petro himself, who is already in a diplomatic tit-for-tat with the Trump administration over these extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean, fired back within hours. In a post on X, Petro claimed that Colombia destroys a drug laboratory every 40 minutes and does so without firing a missile. He invited President Trump to participate in the country's anti-drug strategy, but issued a direct warning.
Come to Colombia, Mr. Trump. I invite you so that you can participate in the destruction of the 9 laboratories we do daily to prevent cocaine from reaching the U.S. Without missiles, I have destroyed 18,400 laboratories during my government. Come with me and I'll show you how they are destroyed, 1 laboratory every 40 minutes. But do not threaten our sovereignty, because you will awaken the Jaguar. Attacking our sovereignty is declaring war. Do not damage 2 centuries of diplomatic relations. You have already slandered me. Do not continue down that path. If there is a country that has helped stop thousands of tons of cocaine so that North Americans do not consume it, it is Colombia.
Now, the pushback reflects a deeper tension. In fact, for decades, Colombia has been one of Washington's closest allies in counter-narcotics operations. Billions of U.S. dollars have flowed into intelligence sharing, drug eradication programs, and military assistance. But under Petro, Colombia has pushed for a shift away from militarized approaches, arguing that the drug problem must be tackled through development and reforms rather than unilateral U.S. force. So far, neither the Pentagon nor the State Department has clarified whether Trump's remarks signal a new doctrine, and even more importantly, close U.S. ally, the United Kingdom, has now announced that it will no longer be sharing intelligence with the U.S. on movements in the Caribbean. And with tensions in the region continuing to rise, military buildup in the Caribbean continuing, and Washington widening its list of targets, the hemisphere now faces a critical moment on where drug policy, territorial sovereignty, and military power are colliding more directly than they have in years. President Donald Trump once mocked former President Joe Biden's age and stamina. Today, that pendulum has swung directly in Donald Trump's direction. Fresh footage from a cabinet meeting showed the 79-year-old president appearing drowsy, fueling new questions about his alertness. Another photo from Mar-a-Lago added to the storm as social media users compared his image to a lively-looking Biden in Nantucket. The White House insists President Trump is in excellent health, but his vague comments about a recent MRI have only intensified the debate. Here's more in our next report.
For years, Donald Trump mocked former President Joe Biden's health. He questioned Biden's stamina. He taunted his gait, his speech, and his age. And now, the spotlight has flipped. Trump is the one facing relentless scrutiny. The shift began with new footage from a recent cabinet meeting. The 79-year-old president appeared drowsy. His eyes drooped. At times, they shut completely. The clips spread across social media within minutes. Many viewers said the video raised fresh doubts about his alertness and energy. The White House rushed to contain the fallout. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt insisted Trump was listening attentively. She said the session had lasted 3 hours. She argued the president was fully engaged. The administration repeated that Trump remains in excellent health.
As part of President Trump's comprehensive executive physical, advanced imaging was performed because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. In summary, this level of detailed assessment is standard for an executive physical at President Trump's age and confirms that he remains in excellent overall health.
In fact, officials even cited a memo from the presidential physician. Trump's physician said the advanced heart and abdominal scans looked perfectly normal. But the MRI remains a major political flashpoint. Trump muddied the waters himself by saying he had no idea which part of his body had been scanned.
What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing. Goodbye, everybody. You too.
That comment fueled new questions. Democrats, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, demanded that the full results be released. The White House dismissed the pressure as pure politics and garbage narratives. A second image intensified the debate. The image showed Trump sitting at Mar-a-Lago near a sunlit window. His eyes were closed. His mouth hung open. He wore a white golf shirt and his trademark red cap. Critics called the picture alarming. And social media lit up with fresh demands for medical transparency. Then came the comparison. A photo of Biden in Nantucket circulated during Thanksgiving. Biden walked through the historic downtown with his family. He smiled at passersby. He tipped a street musician. He wore a leather jacket and a baseball cap. Supporters said he looked upbeat and steady, even after completing cancer treatment. Users placed both photos side by side. The contrast was instant and brutal. That contrast carried another sting. Trump spent years attacking Biden's age. Now, many say Trump is confronting the same scrutiny he once weaponized. Commentators noted the irony. Others urged a more respectful, fact-driven conversation about both men. Questions about Trump's health did not start this week. They have simmered for months. However, the White House blamed it on chronic venous insufficiency, a common condition in older adults. Still, the debate is growing louder. The latest images, Trump resting in Washington and Biden strolling through Nantucket, have reignited a national conversation. Americans are once again questioning what level of medical openness they should expect from their leaders. And as both men remain pivotal political figures, their health will stay under a harsh and unblinking spotlight.
Pop star Sabrina Carpenter has become the latest celebrity to tangle with the Trump administration. The White House has used her music without permission to a montage of ICE raids prompting Carpenter to fire back, calling the video evil and disgusting. And she's not alone. This comes just weeks after Taylor Swift's music was also used in a White House video mocking her past criticism of the president. Here's a look at how the administration's social media strategy is sparking an alliance between pop stars, publishers, and now cartoon characters, all pushing back against Trump's unauthorized use of their work.
Pop star Sabrina Carpenter has become the latest artist dragged against her will into the Trump administration's meme-heavy messaging machine, and she's not having it. The singer blasted the White House after it used her hit Juno to soundtrack a video montage of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement raids. The clip, posted across official channels, layers Carpenter's viral lyric, "Have you ever tried this one? Bye-bye?" over footage of agents tackling, chasing, and handcuffing people, many with their faces blurred, some not at all. Carpenter's response was swift and furious. She wrote on X that the video is evil and disgusting. The singer further wrote, and I quote, "Do not ever involve me or my music to benefit your inhumane agenda," end quote. Carpenter's outcry comes alongside a truly surreal moment in children's entertainment. Franklin the Turtle has also been forced to publicly distance himself from the administration. This week, Franklin's publisher, Kids Can Press, condemned a post by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who shared an edited image of the beloved cartoon reptile aiming a bazooka at boats. The caption read, "Franklin targets narco-terrorists." The publisher's statement was firm. "We strongly condemn any denigrating, violent, or unauthorized use of Franklin's name or image. Apparently, no fictional woodland creature is safe from becoming a geopolitical mascot. But instead of backing down, the White House issued a pointed clapback to Carpenter. In a statement to a digital magazine, a White House official said, and I quote, "Here's a short and sweet message for Sabrina Carpenter. We won't apologize for deporting dangerous criminal illegal murderers, rapists, and pedophiles from our country." End quote. The rebuttal didn't stop there. The representative then quoted one of Carpenter's own songs, Man-Child, to accuse her of defending sick monsters. Subtlety, clearly, is not the strategy. This is the second time in recent weeks the administration has latched onto pop lyrics for its social content. Earlier, Taylor Swift's The Fate of Ophelia was used in a video mocking her past criticism of Donald Trump. The administration also used another one of her song, Father Figure, for a social media post with the caption that stated that this empire belongs to Trump. Swift, so far, has stayed silent. Carpenter now joins a growing list of musicians pushing back against what they consider political misuse of their work. Kenny Loggins demanded that the White House remove his 1986 classic Danger Zone from an AI-generated Truth Social video portraying Trump as a jet-flying monarch named King Trump. "Nobody asked me for my permission," Loggins said, calling the clip divisive and harmful. Olivia Rodrigo also hit out at the administration for using of her songs in a video on self-deportation. Her message was blunt. "Don't ever use my songs to promote your racist, hateful propaganda." From Carpenter to Rodrigo to a cartoon turtle with impeccable reading corner credentials, the message from artists is the same. Stop using their work to sanitize a set of hardline immigration policies that have already sparked protests across the country. And if the administration continues its strategy of pairing controversial enforcement footage with chart-topping hits, the list of furious musicians may only grow. One thing is clear: the cultural battle lines of Trump's second term now stretch well beyond Washington and deep into America's playlists.
The spirit in our ranks since the election.
And finally, OpenAI Chief Executive Sam Altman has declared a code red inside the company, signaling an urgent push to upgrade ChatGPT as competition in the industry intensifies. In an internal memo reported by The Information and the Wall Street Journal, Altman said OpenAI was at a critical time and must move faster to strengthen its flagship product. The company previously declared a lower-level code orange, but red is the highest alert in its internal system. And now the shift comes as Google's new AI model, Gemini 3, draws widespread praise for its speed, reasoning, and multimodal abilities. The model has outperformed rivals across benchmarks and impressed developers and everyday users alike. Even Salesforce CEO, who's been a long-time ChatGPT user, publicly said he switched to Gemini 3, calling the leap in performance insane. Google reported that its Gemini app now has 650 million monthly active users, while its AI overview features reaches about 2 billion monthly users. Altman acknowledged the competition last month, congratulating Google and admitting that Gemini 3 could create temporary economic pressure for OpenAI.
Based on the trends we are seeing of how people are using AI and how much of it they would like to use, we believe the risk of OpenAI not having enough computing power is more significant and more likely than the risk of having too much.
But despite ChatGPT attracting more than 800 million weekly users, the company faces rivals with far deeper financial resources, including Google, Meta, Amazon, and Anthropic. In fact, the pressure has grown as Anthropic reported more than 300,000 business customers, up from fewer than just 1,000 2 years ago. Now, according to the memo, OpenAI will temporarily scale back projects outside its core ChatGPT. Also, plans to introduce advertising have also been put on hold, and work on AI tools for health, shopping, and the newly announced personal assistant Pulse will also slow down. Still, the company now wants all available energy and resources directed at improving ChatGPT speed, reliability, accuracy, and personalization. Altman is now urging teams across the company to shift temporarily to ChatGPT division and join daily coordination calls. The head of ChatGPT said in a post on X that the priority is to make the product feel more intuitive and more personal while expanding global access. And as OpenAI pushes ahead, concerns continue to grow about soaring infrastructure costs. The company expects more than $20 billion in annual revenue this year alone, but it's committed a staggering $1.4 trillion to future data center investments over the next 8 years. And Altman has repeatedly argued that these commitments are essential, saying that the risk of not having enough computing power is greater than the risk of overspending.
Based on the trends we are seeing of how people are using AI and how much of it they would like to use, we believe the risk to OpenAI of not having enough computing power is more significant and more likely than the risk of having too much. Even today, we and others have to rate limit our products and not offer new features and models because we face such a severe compute constraint.
Still, investors appear confident for now. OpenAI's valuation has surged to $500 billion, up from $157 billion last year, backed by major funding from Microsoft and SoftBank. And so as competition continues to escalate and expectations rise, Altman's code red marks a pivotal moment. The company is betting big on ChatGPT once again, and the next move could decide who leads the global AI race. That does it for us today. We certainly thank all of you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.